So again, let me kind of make it in a cleaner format. As a result of this, what happens is that the new string object is created indeed, which will contain string 1, and the reference will be stored in my array. So array of 3 strings in Java is an array of 3 references to strings. And it's the programmer's responsibility to populate each element with actual references to strings, right? So this second line right here will create a new string, which will contain text 2, right? Because that's what I initialized there. So I'm kind of, doing my horrific drawing here, the sketch. And so this time, the element here will be pointing to this other string. And I'm sorry, I had to change this to 1 and 2. That's my mistake typing this. So this is, finally, the third string, of course, is also created, finally, as a result of this. And then the reference to it is stored in the array. So this is an array of objects, a demo. Another demo would be an array of integers. What if, with one integer dummy right here equals 1, 2, 3, you know that dummy is a primitive data type. Its type is integer. In this case, if I say dummy, and if I continue to use my illustration here, I don't have a reference to integer. It's like in my local scope of my main method, and little integer is created. I will also draw it as 3D object. It's a small one, right? Java specification tells us it's 4 bytes in size. And this dummy name, right, is essentially a direct reference to this object. There is no object reference. This is a primitive data type, and it's different compared to objects. With strings, an object is allocated by new, we get reference to it. With primitive data types, you have an access to an actual object, which is primitive data type. So if, in comparison, I create an integer array named I array, IR, equals new int array of, say, 5 integers. The situation is different because in Java, in case if you create an array of primitive data types, not classes such as string, but if you create an array of primitive data types, then the array object which will be constructed here will directly have those 3 integers in it. Without any references, the actual integers will be stored in there. Okay. So let's go to our presentation, which we have for arrays, and kind of take a look at the arrays presentation. All right. So some basic things that we can say about arrays. To instantiate an array, you say new whatever type is and specify the length, right? The full declaration will look like this. String array name equals new string and specify how big the array should be. Integer array name equals new int and specify how big that array should be. So this very simple idea of how you create an array, and it's, after all, it's still a variable declaration. This entire thing here is a declaration of a variable name, whatever the placeholder for array name is, whatever identifier we do, but its type is not this type, but actually an array of those things, like an array of strings or array of integers. or array of scanner objects, and so forth. So it's really not that different from declaration of a normal variable. Array in Java is an object, and I try to do some drawings on these objects and the dynamics of what is available in them. But let's take a look at this documentation here, or presentation rather. So, so the code that declares an array of 5 ints is this, exactly what we tried there. And this is the picture in memory. num0, num1, 2, 3, and 4 is a reference to the actual elements inside of our array. So as you can see, square brackets here are recycled multiple times. One time, a pair of square brackets is used as a type modifier. Instead of saying integer, we're saying array of integers. Okay, so the first time, the square bracket syntax, punctuation characters, opening and closing square bracket, are used as type modifier. The second time, in this particular syntax, it's used to specify the length of an array. We say, all right, so we're creating 5 elements of this type. And so therefore, 5 is the length of our array. And the third time it's being used is when we go to our code, and we can now say system dot out dot print print the line, and we can print our integer. The first integer that we can print is IR, say, 0. This is the first element in our array. The index of the first or initial element in our array is 0, not 1. So therefore, we say that in Java, arrays are 0-based. What 0 represents is this. If you have an array of 3 strings or an array of 5 integers or 3 integers in my drawing here, what it means is that the 0 represents the number of steps to take to get to that element. And in 0-based array, we say that to get to this first initial element inside of our array, you need 0 steps, because it's right at the beginning of this, series of elements. So we have it right at the top. To get to the second element, there needs to be 1 step forward taken to bypass the initial element, but only 1 step away there is the second physical element of our array. And so therefore, arrays are 0-based. 0, 1, 2, 3 are indices into our arrays. So that's why if I have an array of 5 integers, IR0 represents the first integer there. At the same time, IR of course is the name of the array that I chose. Number 4 is the 5th integer in that array. Okay, so if I wanted to print them all, I would say 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I try to do 5, I'm going to get array out of bounds error, because at runtime I will be told that, hey, you're trying to refer to non-existing element in the array. It's very important that with arrays we have to keep track of boundaries of our arrays. So that's part of our talk today as well. So array of doubles will look very similar. You first create an array, and when you create an array, you don't have to even initialize it, right? This will be a reference to an object which doesn't exist yet. It's only when we say new double 4, then the actual array object is created. And then we assign this object reference to the name of our array, which is prices. So the prices will contain 4 doubles in it. The code that declares and instantiates an array of doubles in one statement would be this. And I I think this last example is preferred, so that we create an array when we have its size, so we can initialize it. Let me save this piece.